Hey class, so today I want to take a little bit of time and discuss verbals with you all. So, verbals include participles, gerunds, and infinitives. When we see these words, we sometimes get discouraged and really confused about what these different words mean and how we pick them out of a sentence. So, today we're going to look over the definitions, look at examples from our class novel, Bless Me Ultima, and then we're going to do a little practice and see if we can perfect this skill. So, what is a verbal? A verbal is a word formed from a verb, but functioning as a different part of speech. So these words may be functioning as adjectives, nouns, adverbs, or etc. These words may trick us into thinking that they are verbs, but really they each carry different functions. So, these include gerunds, participles, and infinitives like we just said. So, the first verbal is a gerund. A gerund is a verbal that functions as a noun. I want you guys to remember this. Gerunds always end in ing. So, if you see a word in a sentence and it ends in ing, you can automatically think in your head it's either a gerund or a participle. We'll talk about participles in the next slide. But for right now, a gerund always ends in ing. So, the quote from our novel, "Understanding comes with life. As a man grows, he sees life and death. He is happy and sad. He works, plays, meets people. Sometimes it takes a lifetime to acquire understanding, because in the end, understanding simply means having sympathy for people." So, in this sentence, I have highlighted the verbal. So the verbal is understanding, and it is a gerund. So, understanding obviously ends in ing, so we can check that off our list. And understanding functions as a noun. So when you read the very first sentence, understanding comes with life. If you were to pick out the subject and noun in this sentence, it would be understanding. So, what I want you guys to do is stop and create a sentence with a gerund. This is just practice, but we need to see where we stand. Okay, so let's check our sentence. Does your word function as a noun? If so, then put a check mark beside it. Does the word end in ing? Put a check. If this word does not describe another word. As we know from previous lessons, nouns is a person, place, or thing. A noun does not describe another word. So, this word should not be describing another word. It should be standing alone as a noun. Teachers, if you're watching this video, you could pause the video and do the same activity with your students as well. Next is a participle. A participle is a verbal that functions as an adjective. So, in contrast with a gerund, a participle is going to be describing another word. A participle also ends in ing, so remember, just because your word ends in ing doesn't mean it's always going to be a gerund. So, a participle either ends in ing or ed, and there's also two types of participles. There's a present participle, which ends in ing, and there's a past participle, which ends in ed or en. We just have to look at the verb tense of the sentence. So, let's look at our quote from our class novel, Bless Me Ultima. "Ultima came to stay with us the summer I was almost 7. When she came, the beauty of the Llano unfolded before my eyes, and the gurgling waters of the river sang to the hum of the turning earth." So, in this sentence, I have highlighted the participle. The participle is gurgling, and it describes waters. As we see, the word gurgling is a descriptive word, so it is describing the noun waters. So, with the criteria listed above, I want to stop, and I want you guys to create your own sentence that includes a participle. This sentence doesn't have to relate to our class novel. It can be completely random. Alright, let's check your sentence. Does this word function as an adjective? Does this word end in ing or ed? Or en, depending if it's a past participle or a present participle? I left en out, sorry y'all. Does this word describe another word in the sentence? Remember, participles function as adjectives, so they describe. And can you name if it's a past participle or a present participle? And lastly, infinitives. I always hear students say this is the easiest one to remember. And it's the easiest because it has a formula that you can remember. So an infinitive is a verbal that functions in the format of to plus a verb. For example, if you were to use to swim in your sentence, that would be labeled as an infinitive. So, from our novel, this quote, perhaps the best God would be like a woman, because only women really knew how to forgive. So, in this sentence, our infinitive is highlighted to forgive. We always have to include, for it to be an infinitive, it has to have the word to, so to is included, and forgive is a verb in this sentence. We have another sentence from our novel, which states, sometimes a man has to cry, even if he is a man. So, to cry is our infinitive. It includes to and cry as a verb. So, teachers, stop and let your students create their own sentences with an infinitive. Again, this does not have to be based off our novel. It can be random. So, let's check our sentences. Does your infinitive follow the to plus verb format? And did you write the correct version of to? I know lots of times we get confused about to and too. Remember, we use too when we are describing something. If I were to say, me too, or I like to go to that restaurant too. Almost as another word for also. But remember, when we're using infinitives, we only use T and O. So, every time we learn something new, we want to know why it is important that we are learning it. So, why are verbals important? Verbals help us to become more advanced writers. I want you to think to yourself, when you're reading your favorite book, why is it your favorite book? When I think about all my favorite books, I really enjoy them because they're so descriptive, and I feel like I can put myself in the same setting that the author is writing in because of all the descriptive words. Our writing becomes a lot more interesting when we are able to describe words in detail. Being able to distinguish verbals helps the reader to be able to define what the characters are doing and how they are doing it. So, lastly, our last quote from our novel is, here, Native Americans have been saying prayers and keeping the world in balance for thousands of years. It's difficult to make a living here, but beneath the daily struggle there exists a fulfilling spiritual sense. This is sacred space for us. I highlighted the verbal, which is the participle fulfilling. And in this sentence, just by this one word, fulfilling, we really get the sense of what this spiritual sense means to the Native Americans. It's very fulfilling for them, and it's such a sacred thing to them. Just by one descriptive word can really change the atmosphere of a sentence and the mood. So, let's practice. These are just random words that I have come up, or random sentences that I have come up with, and I want you to write them down on your sheet of paper. So teachers, you can pause this video as well at this point. And let's go through each sentence, underline the verbal, and then write beside it what type of verbal it is. Alright, let's check it and review. I hope you guys are ready. So, For the first one, Macy likes to sing and dance in the rain. You should have underlined to sing, and this is an infinitive. Secondly, a broken heart will mend over time. You should have highlighted broken, and this is a past participle because it ends in en, and it is in the past tense. Number 3, I believe that laughing is the best medicine. So laughing is a gerund in this sentence, and it is functioning as a noun. So remember, if it's not describing anything, it is most likely a gerund. Next, swimming is one of my favorite summer activities. Swimming should be highlighted, and this word is functioning as a gerund because it is a noun in the sentence. My mother is traveling is a traveling sales representative. Traveling is describing sales representative. So when you hear describing, your mind should go off and say, oh, that's a participle. Participle equals describing. So is it a present participle or a past? Look at the ending of the word. It ends in ing and it's in the present tense. So this is a present participle. Getting up early in the morning is sometimes challenging. I totally relate to this one. Getting functions as a gerund because it is functioning as a noun and it's not describing anything. The crying baby had a wet diaper. You should have highlighted crying, and crying is describing baby. It is a present participle because it ends in ing and it's in the present tense. The boiling water was so hot I couldn't touch the pot handle. Boiling is describing water and it's in the present tense with ing. Are you going to ride to school with me tomorrow? Remember, just because it has to in front of the word doesn't mean that it's an infinitive. So, if you underline to school, I tripped you up. I kind of tricked you. You have to be careful. To ride is a verb in this sentence. So, your infinitive is to ride, but school functions as a noun. So, to school is not an infinitive. And lastly, praying should be taken very seriously. Praying functions as a gerund in this sentence because it is a noun. I hope you guys did well. And here are my references to our class novel, which we will practice this format next week. Thank you.